Okay, Maui, what is your bad point?
Yeah. I mean, we just talked a lot about Brazilian players wanting to play with each other and everything like that. And this has been a topic on so many podcasts for the last 3 or so years in so many different iterations, whether that's Kei Serato and Yuri needing better teammates, or Insani wanting to get on a better team, or really just it's been so difficult to put together the right constellation of five Brazilian players. And I just figure, given we've got the godfather of Brazilian CS himself, I just wanted FalleN's opinion on it while bringing up the fact that as of right now, of the South American teams on HLTV's rating, four of the five had to go international, or at least just include people not from the same country. The only team that is actually all from Brazil is
I guess, right?
Legacy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Legacy. So I think that the issue still is apparent, even though you guys have found some success lately. And you could even argue that maybe MIBR look better for what they've done with their recent
Sure.
changes. But it's just that with the, I guess, the Pele law or whatever you find to be the reason for it, we still don't have a scene where you can put together five Brazilian players on a team feasibly. Like the feasible part of it is really the aspect. I mean, there's obviously more than enough players to make a great Brazilian team. It's just that it's just the moving the pieces around has been so difficult. So yeah, it's just a bad point because obviously you guys had to go overseas to import some talent, and you already mentioned though that's not even a diss to Safe or NQZ and what their future is as players. It's just that sometimes it's even just the behind the scenes stuff, the contracts.
Yeah, I think Brazilian teams have a very hard time existing in a business side of way. They make money in reals, they have sponsors in reals, which is now $1 is 5 reals, so they're 5 for 1 already in terms of expenses.
Right.
Everyone is expanding in dollars. We are making money in reals. We have to expand in dollars.
Right.
Brazilian numbers are huge, but at the same time, the amount of money that comes by in the influx from having those numbers, if you're selling to the Brazilian market, they're not as big,
Yes.
because there's less money in the economy. So it's a challenge for any Brazilian organization to be existing, and that's just a fact, including for Furia right now. Like the amount of Furia money that they throw in the CS scene is huge. Now that there's different money stickers coming in, they're trying to get some business hope with that team package that comes in the tournaments now, prize pool and fake. But you can only get those if you win tournaments as well,
Yes.
which is just the case for now next week. Because otherwise, how can Furia expect to win money from those packages if you're not getting finals? So it's very difficult for organizations to exist, and then here and there's gonna be one or another player that are very good. It's just a fact. Like Insani, for example, you the same card we're telling Kyosuke comes from. I don't think Insani is too far away from
It's
it.
really good,
Like
mate,
you,
yeah.
you could get an Insani card on the same package you got the Kyosuke one. Maybe Kyosuke is the best one, but Insani is still on the same package. But how my BR is gonna do it, and in the same sense that they want to grow as a team and be better as a team, if they sell Insani, who do they get from? Like, they're not going to get the same card player. They're not going to get the same level player. And on the other hand, there's another team who has two pieces, but then, they don't have the other third and fourth. And to buy this one, it costs like $1 million. How the hell do you explain to your business side that you're going to spend 5 million reals in a player? Is that player going to give you trophies? I cannot really guarantee you, right? Like, who can? Which even Falcons now spending all those money cannot guarantee trophies, So for Brazilians, it's harder to go for those moves because of those things. Another things I think that happen as well on the same side is Brazilian betting market has been under a lot of building phase right now, because there's a lot of unregulated betting in our country on the last years, and now there's been legislations and there have been laws that have been made through.
Right.
The betting companies, they have to be under some circumstances to be operating. They have to be paying some fees and all those things. So we know that in a lot of sports nowadays, the betting companies are the ones injecting the most money in all those orgs. So in the last 1 year and a half, there's a lot of difficulties for those betting companies to be exercising their work in Brazil. And you take, for example, Gaules. Gaules is a guy that has been always against gambling in a sense where even though he was getting some sponsors in some of his castings and stuff, he was never really contributing to grow the betting scene in Brazil. And then you can have your own thoughts on it, and you can be good or bad. But in a sense, economically wise for the teams, it is bad because the sponsors who could be applying money for the teams, they don't really have the incentive to be doing that so in Brazil. Because the bigger caster who has the biggest numbers doesn't talk about those things, even if he's getting sponsored by those companies, and the team doesn't have the influx of money to be going for those moves. So although this is the business part of Brazil that makes it hard, The other thing is we just had a change with the RMR system. And back in the days, every Brazilian team was trying to sustain themselves to go for the RMR and maybe get some money. That's the truth. They want to sustain, they want to get the spot, and then they can make the year possible in financial wise. And nowadays, it's a different system completely. Like we have seen some doors being shut down because like you don't really have the hopes to go for the major. There won't be a tournament that can give you this chance. So it's a little bit complicated. And when it gets to players, honestly, I think that we didn't have Desire or Monesi or Shiro of the new generation. That's just a fact. Like from the last 4 or 5 years, if we're looking to build the best team, who is the Alper who's going to be playing those guys? It's a Shiro on myself as well. Like I wasn't really able to put the same numbers. So you're already maybe the most important role in the CS down from others. If you want to be a very high level team to be competing against those guys, you need a good Alper, you need a good star player, you need a good lurker, you need a good IGL. So with all those things happening at the same time, it's very difficult to put all those 5 on the same time, on the same team. And I think that's just why people start going for some other players, starting from the Latin America region, which we have some great players. I think DGT has been a very good player in the past for 9Z and all those teams. Even Davideus now has been proven to be a good pickup by Pain. They have been very competitive. And yeah, that's why I think we have to look for other options. Buyouts are expensive. Teams don't have much money. Teams who have those players never going to get rid of them. And then some players, honestly, I understand it's hard to judge. But if you sign a contract for a team that doesn't really have the chances to go tier 1 for long, then what are we really doing in a competitive sense? It's hard to judge because there are money in the line who can change someone else's family life, so his own life in a sense. So you can understand it's always risky. Everyone has to think for themselves. Back on my days, because we didn't play for much money, because we're playing just for tournaments, it was very stupid to sign with someone that you think is not going to be a good team. Because everyone was not playing for money. We're playing to be the best team. So if you tell me, FalleN, I'm going to give you a double of your salary, which wasn't much at the time, but you're going to be stuck here for 2-3 years, it's a no, bro. I don't even want the money. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not much money. Yeah. So it's hard for me to even picture it. But I can't really put myself into their shoes now because I'm in such a different condition now that it's hard to judge. So all those things, And I think the MyBR movement is going to work too. And again, from the same base that I think our movement worked, it's instantly a better Alper. It's the most important position in the team. If your Alper is putting numbers, bro, it doesn't even have to speak your language. Honestly, like you have a 1.05 Alper, the other guy is 1.25. He doesn't speak your language, bro. Yes. Go with the 1.25, bro. He's gonna get you a lot of rounds. Honestly, Alper is just very, very important.
Yes.
And then IGL wise, I think they're bringing a guy who understands the game. Kicker play with Marek for so long, bro.
Oh, and Nicky as well.
They come from the same school.
Sure.
Yeah. Of course, different roles, of course, but they share some of the same thoughts. So I think he's going to be able to teach some things for those guys. That's going to be they're going to look to this guy and say, hey, I can really learn from this new school. That's a new theory be applied here. And they're already showing some numbers, right? This guy just had a fucking record beating 50 frags in 2 maps or something. Of course, he's playing low position, but yeah, go you there, try to play with them. It's not so easy, So there is some credit to this as well.
Yes.
So I understand the moves. It makes sense. It's hard. It's hard on the Brazilians, but honestly, coming from a country where we have so many problems, everything's a little bit more difficult. You're gonna come with the line now, Thorin, just because we're Brazilians, but it is a factor. It is
because we is Brazilian?
Yeah, exactly, but it is difficult. It is difficult.
True. By the way, I would also agree, if you had to ever have some weird scenario where someone just said, like, you have to have one player in your team can't speak the same language, the AWPer would be the most obvious one to pick. I mean, in fact, I even alluded before, if people don't know this because they think all countries that sound vaguely Eastern European speak Russian. I can tell you, Guardian told me he didn't speak fluent Russian, by the way, but he played for fucking Navi. He was in like major finals, so that means he was picking up little bits of what they were saying. But aside from that, he was just shooting people with the crosshair pro. In fact, in their
like
team,
FalleN now, right? It doesn't pick everything.
No, I've noticed because people will not realise. Yeah, like obviously he speaks some English, but I doubt his English is that strong either. In fact, the same thing happened. He's not an AWPer with Kiyosuke. That story where they joined and did that boot camp with no PCs, and he even said like, I only understood 30% of what they were saying. So it's like most of what they're saying, he's just going like, yeah, Nico.
It's the English CS as well, right? Like
true.
They play FPL, so they can say two here, go there,
exactly.
Here, help me here.
Yes.
Leave.
Yes.
Like the English is. I even joke with Molodai because he's supposed to have English wiki classes right now. We since day one. Of course, he's young, bro. He's not doing often. And I'm like, Daniel, when you gonna do your fucking classes every week?
Yeah.
I want to be your friend, bro. When I talk about life, talk about me. Like, fuck off.
True. True. No, but I'm with you on this point as well. Like, I actually think the sponsor point you make is a very shrewd one that people will miss, FalleN. People do this thing, and by the way, it's not your fault. It's actually the fault of the tournament organisers. The tournament organisers, their favourite website, mate, is that ES Charts website. All they care about is the total number of viewers and the average viewers, right? But they don't mention that, unfortunately, all viewers aren't worth the same amount of money to sponsors. Like, I can tell you when we do sponsors for our company, like, sponsors, if they're sponsoring a show like this, care the most about having like American fans first, then maybe other English speaking ones, maybe some British, maybe Australia or something. But actually, believe it or not, if I was to say I can get you like 1 million Russian viewers, that they might not even sell to the Russian market. They might not have as much disposable income there. Yeah.
Matter, right?
To me, it's the same thing with Brazilians. You can guarantee if you get Gaules and all the Brazilian and Fury and FalleN playing, yeah, you're going to get really good viewership. But is that customer worth the same to the sponsor? And unfortunately, if the sponsor's American, maybe he doesn't even sell in the Brazilian market. You'd probably need your own sponsors. So it's tricky. That does make it tricky. I agree. And also, as you say, the currency angle that you're basically like paying in dollars, but then you're making the money back in your own currency. So the numbers are going to be way off. So you have to have a much higher amount. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. And then also, the other thing is, the buyout things also. I want to ask you a question here about the buyouts, because I've heard a lot of stories, like Maui suggests, from like football. Some of those make sense, mate, because in football, even to this day, people still do try to get all those Brazilian talents super early. They're basically doing the equivalent of that story I said about getting Queserato. This would be like when you're 15 or something, mate. They get you super early, and they just gamble that you're good. So the reason why they put these buyouts in football, as far as I know, was to like protect the Brazilian clubs, so they don't just lose all the talent immediately and then never have any good players. Because actually the sad thing about football is, even though Brazil produces all those amazing players, they only tend to play for Brazilian teams at the end of their career when they're like 40 or whatever, they don't care anymore. And like Ronaldo or Neymar, exactly. Right, so you don't ever get to actually have that talent in Brazil, unfortunately. So I understand why people would want that in esports, but the vibe I get from talking to people in Brazil, FalleN, is it's gone too far in esports though, because in esports we don't actually have the same money that like European football teams do to sign people. And I've heard some of the buyouts, they're either like impossible, like there's two angles I wanted to ask you about. One, people say the buyouts are really nuts. Like, it'll be a player that's not even a famous one and he'll have like a 100k buyout, 200k buyout. And then the other angle people say is that whereas, you said about Liquid earlier, actually both Liquid and Cloud9, I think because they're American, are almost too fair. If you really want to leave, they'll be like, all right, we'll figure out a way to make it work. I won't keep you on the bench. I won't keep you on the half salary. I'll find a way to transfer, even though it might hurt me. Like, remember, Cloud9 let fucking Stewie go after they won the major, mate. That in theory, you're like resetting your whole project. But Jack's whole thing was like, I have a personal relationship, though, I'll let you go. I've heard some of the Brazilian teams aren't like that, mate. I've heard some of them are like, look, you became famous in my team. I'm basically like, I own you in a way. Like, you stay, I don't want to let you go. So you stay until I say you can leave. So even if you say to that guy, I want to leave, he might say no. And then you don't have the same power that like an American does to put your voice out there. What do you think of this angle? Are the buyouts and are people a bit more restrictive with the players, do you think?
I think the restrictiveness is higher. Like the owners' restriction are higher because in some sense they feel that they're not putting the careers from the player first. That's my POV. Okay, because for example, I understand why they're not doing it.
No, totally.
Maybe I would do the same.
Sure,
but it's just a fact. Like, if you are thinking on the other player's career, and then he has such a better opportunity to go, how can you judge if that's true or not is another factor as well. Maybe they don't even understand about the game sometimes.
True.
How they can judge it. But yeah. Then when it comes to those American organizations and people with a little bit more stability, then they have this, what's the word in English? It's a luxury to be able to think about the other person, right? Like, I don't need to keep you here because I sold that sponsor. Because we have other players, great teams, we can make other stuff work. We can buy another great player and stuff like that.
Yes.
But yeah, and in terms of buyout, I think it's a problem that started with, I have lived that success, because when we are in SK and LG, if we wanted a player, that would be the green call scenario for any other owner. Like, they're coming for a player from my team. That's my time to make money. So it started very low.
Oh, so the price was always higher for you, right?
It was, exactly. So it was always higher for the best team,
right?
So it went up, and now it's not wrong to say that if we wanted to get Insane, for example, it would cost us more than $1 million, no, guaranteed, because probably the math that the people behind the scenes would be doing is, it only makes sense if it validates my entire operation.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna lose my best player, but my operation is guaranteed for 1 or 2 years. I'm gonna have time to rebuild, which I do agree and I do understand it. It's just sad, but it's the reality, you know.
Agreed.
It's just what it is. And I think my advice for new players is we have to find a way to have an X amount of your salary in terms of your buyout. Because once you are renewing a contract, I don't feel like the players understand the power they have as well. For example, if I'm a newcomer coming from an academy team and I prove myself as someone who comes from this package where only few players comes from, my org knows that, right? And like, let's say I have 1 year and a half more contract. In 5-6 months now, I have 1 year contract more. They know I have value, and they're gonna come to me and they're gonna say, "I want you in the academy, in the new team, and your salary is gonna go from 500 to 5,000, 10 times more." But at which cost? Like, you're gonna have to play here for 3 or 4 years. I think it's fair. I want that, but how do I get out of that if I need to? And that's when I think they would need better advice from people, which normally you don't get from.
Yes.
And then I don't know, maybe if my salary is going to be 5,000, then I think my buyout should be 50 times what you're paying me. So if you sell me during this time frame, you still make money. I don't know, it should be 100 times. We have to come to a number where it does make sense, because otherwise the guy is making $6,000 to $7,000, $8,000 a month, and he costs $1.5 million. Right? He has 2 years contract. Like, it's just not fair, you know?
Yeah, by the way, I think that's also a very fair point to make. That here's the thing, I agree with you. I can see it from the owner's perspective. I've known a lot of the owners. Like, but here's an area where fans might actually be shocked. In that scenario I gave about the Cloud9 one, I didn't agree with Stu 2K. I told Jack, mate, you gave him an extension after the major. I'd tell him, sorry, I'd have let you go if you were at the end of your other contract. As soon as we win the major and then I give you an extension, you're staying for the whole time, mate. I'm sorry, like, my project is you, basically. I invested in you. You're the central piece, so I don't let you go because I can't get a player as good. It's why I would totally understand why if MIBR wanted crazy money for Insanity, if they sell him, their project doesn't just go one player down, it's going to be like 10th as good. There isn't another Insanity to come in the door next day. But I also agree, the area where I get worried in terms of players is what you just said there. It's one thing if I come with a huge offer and the guy says, no, I don't want to sell that player because he's the main player of my team. But then he goes to that player and goes, look, since you're staying though, they were going to give you 10k, say 20k a month salary. You're on 5 now. I'll put you up to 10 since you're in my team. We'll kind of meet you in the middle. You stay for another year. But I agree, if they can just go, the buyout's up here, but your salary never moves. Yeah, that feels a bit fucked up if that player then, you know, a year later becomes a top 20 player and some amazing talent. Like, there's got to be a way we can make it fairer for everyone, I feel. And I agree with you. I would be in favour of something like you say in the contract, a multiplier. Brazil, right.
Yeah, in football in Brazil, there is a Pelé law that they made for the Brazilian athletes. That's exactly about this. Like, you cannot go above a certain number of X multiplier according to what his salary was.
Right.
On the very early
That sounds
stages.
excellent, yeah.
So, I mean, they had this problem in football at some point in Brazil, and they solved that by having this law. Right. I don't think this law applies to us because I think law-wise, I'm not so sure that esports players have the same thing as other athletes. No, there's some gray area here and there. So if you go to court to fight something like that, we don't really know where it stands. Okay. But I could be talking off my mind here. I'm not a specialist, but I do know that this comes from other sports too, and certainly that could be a middle ground. Yes. Maybe it's something for evolution in sports in Brazil at some point. We do know some politicians that do follow the sports scene, and maybe that's something to suggest for the future.
And also, one last thing to say is that's actually why, if anyone is a fan of this particular show, we have so many times in the past years before the MIBR move and Furia moves, had ugly point, this exact point fallen, because we always used to say, if you're a fan, you might think there's no talent, and it's like, no, it's just all spread out. Like you said, each team had like 2 players. Like, if you did like the Space Jam scenario where aliens are coming and you have to make a super team to save the world of Brazilian players, you could definitely make a 5-man lineup. Like, but the problem is you'd need like a player from Legacy, a couple from Furia, someone from MIBR. You need Pain. These teams collectively. It's why, in a weird way, Brazil got worse for a number 1 team that wins the major, but it got way better for teams that can make the major.
I have a question for you, Thorin.
Go on, then.
You're going to be the Brazilian coach for the World Cup of National Teams, bro. Okay?
Okay.
Epic, bro. Epic.
I could do it. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem, FalleN. You know how I am, mate. I'm not someone who just changes my story when someone's in the call. So the downside is big as here is the IGL. So that's the bad news for the fans watching. But all right. I will say it gets way harder for the AWP and IGL. They're the 2 hard spots. So I'd probably also take NQZ.
So I have a question for you. For IGL.
Yeah.
you could go with Biguzeira or myself or maybe Lux, right? Like the top 3 agiles in Brazil right now.
Yeah.
And you know that just as a national team, like when you go to World Cup, you don't have 1 year of practice, right?
True.
You're going to have to play right along. It's like a pug match.
Okay.
Let's be honest. It's a pug match.
Okay.
So you think Biguzeira has biggest potential in a pug match?
All right, here's the problem.
Power.
We're doing a different scenario here. Most people, when they make the list, FalleN, just mean it's imaginary and they'll never play it. You're doing it if it's real. Look, I'll give you this.
Okay.
If it's real and the tournament's in 2 weeks and there's no time to like scrim and make a strat book, I'll pick you then because you have the experience. I will say, Biguzeira's angle is more like the idea that he has to be the mastermind and have time to do the demos and work with the player. I know what you mean. Like in that scenario, I would pick you.
Okay,
but if it's only hypothetical,
I feel like you would pick FalleN for. I'm not even saying it just because FalleN's here. I think that both go to FalleN lately. Because also Biguzeira hasn't been very good as an individual when he can't play these the Insani roles.
He doesn't have Keserato and fucking Molodoi. He does not have those players. He has DJT and Davideus. Like, calm the fuck down.
I have another question for you, bro.
Go on, hit me with it.
Biguzeira doesn't jump beyond Mirage, bro. He wants to play Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't get to, like, you're going to have a good con player. You're going to have a good short player. So Biguzeira now has to anchor. Okay. It's going to take a lot away from him.
Not unfair one. Let's go with Biguzeira. You got Biguzeira ready. It's our team, bro. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go. Biguzeira first.
The problem is AWP is the hardest one because I think you can go either Safe or NQZ. I'd probably go NQZ because he's popping off. Yeah. I actually do think, sadly, Safe got underrated, unfortunately. The reason I think he's underrated is people only remember when he was in Furia, and I can tell you that version of Furia didn't look like they ever played for the AWP, bro. Like, the AWP was just left out and they were just riflers running in. So I do. He's probably better than people realise. I agree, those are the hardest
positions. They say that internally as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They say that's true.
Right. And then here's the thing: the other players, I'm loving life now. They're all fucking mega players. I could take. Like, I would immediately take Keserato. I think he's the best. So I'm having him as sort of my lurky rifler, I guess. Yeah. By the way, isn't Insani a mega aggressive rifler? Could have him immediately. Yeah. Then my third one. The third one's the hardest. The fifth spot is the hardest one because it depends what sort of role I'm trying to fill here.
It depends if it's real or not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Positions you have to analyze a little bit
more. If I have to make a real team, it might be tricky because that one I probably need like a supportive element there, maybe. But if I'm going for just talent, I'd probably put Yuri. Why not?
Yuri Caserato, safe choice, bro. I agree.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, so you start talking about choice. Yuri Caserato, Insani, Biguzeira, and QZ. I think you can.
It's not a bad roster. It's not a bad roster.
Good luck against Russia, bro.
Okay, true. You might get me on that one. Might be hard. True.
I vote for you, Thorin.
Okay.
Just like we have Ancelotti in Brazil right now, we're gonna have Duncan.
Okay.
Brazilian coach.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Basically, if you don't know Maui, one of the weird things that actually people did do in football to try and improve national teams is, I know this is bizarre because I can't believe this is even allowed, but you're actually allowed to have a foreign manager in football, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So it's true. Actually, sometimes when countries aren't as good anymore, they bring in a foreign manager. So the joke is, I'll come in, I'll be the Gandalf to ride over the hill and save Brazil and win this World Cup.
Okay, I'm down, bro. If there's a vote for the coach, I'm voting you. I don't give a fuck, bro. You're going to make it happen. You're going to save Brazilians again. Make Brazilian great again, bro.
Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.